So, people are losing their heads over the Johnson-Weld ticket we have before us. Like I said in the last Minisode, they have a good enough reason to. Having worked on and having left the Peterson campaign when I did, I already have a pretty strong list of pros and cons beyond what I listed to you the last time you heard me speak, right around the time that the votes were cast for each of the candidates. But, remember what I did do was agree to stand behind the nominee. Now this election, come November, is far grander, far bigger, far more important than simply whether or not Gary Johnson actually believes half of what he says, or if Bill Weld is, as some people are calling him, part of the axis of evil. I'm not going to go that far, but let's not take off the kid gloves on him either. Something I saw a lot of during the vice presidential nominating speeches on Sunday were things that I brought up months ago when I wrote my Declare Independence op-ed over at the Libertarian Republic. Each of the candidates, except Bill Weld, spoke of principle over party. And that message of liberty transcended the Libertarian Party. Now, when I said it, I was shot down for those statements and attacked verbally. None of it bothered me, though, because ultimately, as the convention delegates showed, half the party present on Sunday did not vote for Bill Weld. And what does that show? That shows I was right. That shows principle should be over party. Principle should be over personality. All the time, every time. Is this my way of saying I told you so? Yeah, it is. But let's continue. I'll ultimately be voting for Gary Johnson and Bill Weld in November. Not because Gary is my favorite person, or because now that Weld is the VP pick, he has achieved sainthood. No, I'm doing it because we are dealing with a Republican and Democrat oligarchy that wants to expand government to shores unseen in our American history. I'm talking about the crony capitalist who couldn't make money owning a casino, and a former Secretary of State and Senator who spread more death and destruction around the world than she did diplomacy. Can anyone name one of Hillary Clinton's achievements? I can think of one. She wanted to get a coalition together in the Middle East. Well, now we've got ISIS. You want to talk about sparking revolution and getting rid of old institutions in the Middle East? Well, we had the Arab Spring. So, good job, Clinton. But really, I'm talking about two New York progressives who promised to tax us to greater lengths than we've ever seen. I'm talking about a man who wants to build a wall with the real intent of possibly keeping us in, and a woman who wants to take your hard-earned money in order to line her pockets and those of the special interests she's beholden to. I'm talking about two brands of nationalism and progressive socialism versus a movement to restore the government to the confines of the Constitution. When people hear about Gary Johnson, who know nothing about him nor his principles or what libertarianism is, what we can do are two things. We can either berate and destroy him because of our differences, or we can build and educate people with the hopes of developing new constitutional conservatives or libertarians. He may be the messenger, but what matters is how we spread liberty to. We carry that message. Now, many of my friends within this sphere of politics will either not vote at this point if they didn't like Gary, or they're possibly leaning towards the Constitution Party candidate Darrell Castle. I consider Mr. Castle a friend and believe that in many ways he's a better candidate than Johnson. But something that we need to realize, however, is that if you don't appear on the ballot and you can't make any type of electoral impact, there's really no point. What we know is the Libertarian Party will be on the ballot in all 50 states and has a projected mathematical possibility of winning the White House. That's just what it does when you're everywhere. Now, something some of the other presidential candidates said was that their goal was to just spread the message. They had no intent of winning. While that might be a very pragmatic approach, Gary says that his ultimate goal is to win. And when you're competing something like the presidency, or whether you're a third-party candidate everywhere, even if you're an independent running for city council and the odds are against you, you have to have a winning mindset. Now, am I saying that Mr. Castle doesn't have a winning mindset? No. In his heart of hearts, I think he does. But unless a miracle hits the Constitution Party, that moment to kill the one-party duopoly we have in America, it lies with the Libertarians. Now, as far as Bill Weld goes, I don't have to defend him, but I don't have to attack him either. Weld is someone who's going to have to defend himself, because I can certainly assure you I will not be carrying any water for him anytime soon. In terms of future remarks concerning Weld, just count me as part of the Larry Sharp wing of the party. Weld does fit in perfectly with the ballot access king in Virginia who pushed for the nomination of a congressional candidate still listed as a member of the Republican Party of Virginia to this day, along with the child in Colorado who was the campaign manager for that notorious scammer Steve Krubell, who now resides as Johnson's Colorado state coordinator. I'm just saying, spades stay with spades and aces stay with aces, and he seems to find his flush at this point. On the brighter side of things, however, hopefully this has silenced that whole Libertarian Radical Caucus, whose endorsed candidate and unabashed anarchist Darrell Perry wouldn't have even been eligible to appear on any ballot since he refused to comply with the FEC requirements for running for president. Think how much time was wasted hearing Perry talk, when instead we could have heard more from Kevin McCormick, who didn't have enough delegates to appear on the second ballot, but was actually eligible to run for president because he did the proper paperwork, unlike Mr. Perry. I can hear Mark Montoni screaming, "It doesn't matter!" right now. But if it were up to the Libertarian Radical Caucus, there would be no nominee, since in their world, voting is seen as some act of aggression. Moving on. If you dislike Governor Johnson, that's your right, but I'm not casting a vote for him. I'm casting a vote for a movement that we can capitalize on now or lose forever. This campaign process has made the governor a better candidate than he was prior. McAfee and the others made him fight for the nomination, which he was able to grab, and now it's Johnson's job to show everyone that now is the time not to slow down. The governor prides himself on being a mountain climber, a triathlete, an Ironman, but now he's going to go and charge forward in the longest race he's ever going to have to deal with, the 5-month-long race to the White House. Let's see how things go.